I welcome you to the Top 10 channel. Subscribe to the channel, put a like, and we start the next top. Top 10 celebrities with tragic pasts. It's all too easy to look at a celebrity's life and believe that everything is perfect. With all of your celebrity and wealth, it should be simple to solve your difficulties. But the reality is that celebrities are actual individuals who can't change their pasts no matter how much money they have. Although they may appear to be on top of the world now, things were not always so bright for the following 10 superstars. Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron is widely recognized as one of Hollywood's most accomplished actors. Theron's portrayal as Aileen Wuornos earned her an Oscar and a well-deserved place in cinematic history, since she is known for her ability to reinvent herself. We may never have heard of the feisty South African we have all come to know and love if her past had been slightly different. Theron grew raised on a farm with her parents, who were married but had no children. Her father was an alcoholic, and while Theron claims he never physically harmed her, he did physically abuse her mother. An aunt called her one night to tell her that her father was going to be in a terrible temper when he returned home. He arrived shortly after, accompanied by his brother, who threatened to shoot Charlize and her mother. There was a lot of arguing and ruckus until he started shooting through her door into her bedroom, at which point her mother shot him and shot his sibling with a revolver. Fortunately, authorities determined that the mother acted in self-defense, and Theron has gone on to tremendous success. Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan's struggles began almost from the beginning. He was born into a destitute household in rural Ireland and was abandoned by his father, whom he only met once. While working as a nurse in England, his mother was obliged to transfer him to live with his grandparents, then his aunt and uncle, and finally a boarding home. His mother came to see him twice a year until he was old enough to relocate to England, at which point he became the target of school bullies. Brosnan married Cassandra Harris in 1980 and adopted her late 3 husband's children, plus one more for good measure. But, after a 4-year fight with ovarian cancer, Cassandra died in his arms in 1991, and his 41-year-old daughter Charlotte died of the disease in 2013. By that time, he had grown estranged from his son Chris, who had a serious drug problem that had resulted in fights, thefts, and 2 drunk driving accidents in the previous 2 years. The crashes may have been the final straw for Brosnan, who had already narrowly averted losing his son Sean when he was 13, when Sean's cousin drove down a 200-foot cliff while inebriated. Despite all this, Brosnan doesn't expect any sympathy, saying that while his childhood may have been unconventional, it was his normal. Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer's problems began at a young age, when his parents divorced when he was only 2 years old. Kelsey was raised by his mother's parents until he was 12 years old, when his grandfather died of cancer. The following year, his father was assassinated in front of his new family by a home intruder who had ignited a fire. Karen Grammer, Grammer's 18-year-old sister, was kidnapped, raped, and murdered by 4 men who abandoned her. Karen was able to make it to a nearby residence, where bloody handprints proved she had attempted to ring the doorbell. There was no one in the house. 1 week later, Kelsey found his sister's body. Both of his half-brothers died in a scuba diving accident 2 years later. Surprisingly, Grammer showed up at the parole hearings of the last surviving member of the gang that murdered his sister. At the hearing in 2014, he addressed the killer directly, saying, "You could not have gone to a finer person in the world to argue for someone who has made some horrible choices than me. Please accept my apologies. Please accept my apology. However, I am unable to approve your release. It would be a betrayal of my sister's life to give that a blessing." Nicki Minaj. Whether you like her or not, there's no doubting that Nicki Minaj has had a fantastic career. Things could be a lot worse for her, with triple platinum albums, #1 albums, a slew of awards, and a net worth of over $100 million. However, Minaj claims that it was the fact that things were becoming worse that motivated her to work so hard. Minaj had to deal with her abusive, drug-addicted father throughout her childhood, who would often beat her mother, punch holes in the walls, get arrested, and sell family belongings for drug money. He tried to kill her mother by setting fire to the house at one time. Despite this, the couple is still together, and her father doesn't seem pleased when she tells him the story. "It's the price you pay when you abuse drugs and alcohol," she responds. Think about it, dads who want to be insane. Maybe one day your daughter will be famous and chat to every magazine about it. Kevin Spacey. Nothing in your background, including being harmed as a child, can give you permission to abuse a child. While most of us may find it difficult to empathize with suspected pedophile Kevin Spacey, it is worth remembering that he himself allegedly a victim of such abuse. That doesn't excuse or justify his actions, but it may shed some light on them. Spacey's father allegedly mistreated his sons physically and sexually throughout their youth, according to his estranged brother Randy Fowler. To make matters worse, their mother was clearly aware of the situation but chose to ignore it. She later claimed in a letter that both she and the father had been molested as youngsters, implying a psychiatric reason once more. Spacey's father, in addition to the physical and sexual abuse, was a white supremacist Nazi who wore a Hitler mustache. Interestingly, even after being accused of assault himself, Spacey refuted his brother's allegations. Randy, on the other hand, has decided not to have children for fear of passing on the predator gene, which is probably a good decision. Jack Nicholson. In the year 1937, Jack Nicholson was born in Neptune City, New Jersey. His mother was 17 years old when she gave birth to him, and she was working as a showgirl at the time. Despite the fact that she was married, she soon discovered that her spouse had previously married, leaving her alone with her child. There were also questions about whether the genuine father was the married man, her stage manager, or someone else. Apart from that, Nicholson had a fairly ordinary childhood, one that scarcely qualifies as tragic by any stretch of the imagination. However, Nicholson's boyhood was irrevocably altered in 1974 when it was learned that his late sister was actually his mother. His grandparents had reared him as if he were their own child, and his other sister was his aunt. His original mother and adoptive mother had both died by that time. Nicholson's experience is far from unique, with several families employing the same tactic for young, unmarried women. And it appears he holds no grudges against those who participated in the deception, saying, "I'd say it was a pretty dramatic event, but it wasn't what I'd call traumatizing. After all, I was quite fully established psychologically by the time I discovered who my mother was. In fact, it helped me understand a couple things better. I was, if anything, grateful." Terence Howard. As we've shown in previous examples, simply being connected to someone makes us far more inclined to let them get away with doing some very bad things. Even though they are flawed human beings, most individuals like to believe that there is good in those around them. When someone makes the decision to cut ties with their own flesh and blood, they usually do so for good reason. Terence Howard was subjected to physical violence not only by his father, but also by his mother. He saw his father knife a guy to death when he was 2 years old, for which he was convicted of manslaughter. He was reared by his mother until his father was released, after which they split and he was taken to live with his grandparents. Howard was officially emancipated at the age of 16, traveled to New York, and lived on poverty while attempting to earn a living as an actor. While it was certainly one of the most difficult decisions he would ever make, it appears that he made the correct option. Jim Carrey. Carrey's life began in a fairly ordinary manner, with his accountant father providing a good middle-class lifestyle for the family. Carrey's father lost his job, causing him to drop out of school and work as a janitor to help support the family. The situation was terrible enough that the entire family was forced to live in a van at one time. Carrey even had the absurd idea that he might augment his janitor's salary by doing stand-up comedy on the side. Carrey's comedic career took off rapidly, and things obviously worked out for him. Years later, he would run into difficulty again when he broke up with his lover Catriona White, who committed suicide just days after. Carrey was accused of wrecking her life by introducing her to narcotics, abusing her, and giving her STDs, according to a message on her iPad. White had married another guy while dating Carrey, ostensibly for a green card, it was soon discovered. The actor was accused of driving White to suicide by his husband and mother, who filed a wrongful death lawsuit against him. It was later revealed that White had feigned STD testing to make it appear as if she was free of the disease before meeting Carrey, only to become afflicted afterward. Carrey was cleared of all allegations after years of court fighting. Oprah. Oprah Winfrey is perhaps the most well-known example of a superstar overcoming adversity to achieve success. She is one of the most well-known and prominent persons in the world, with a net worth of between $2 and $4 billion. This would be amazing enough on its own, but the fact that she built her success on a foundation of horrific abuse is what inspires so many others. Oprah was moved back and forth between her parents' homes for years, eventually relocating to one of Milwaukee's most impoverished and violent ghettos at the age of 6. To make money meet, her mother worked a variety of jobs and was rarely able to care for Oprah. By the age of 9, a group of trusted family members had taken advantage of her mother's absence and began a long period of sexual abuse. She was fortunate to spend a few pleasant years with her father when she was 12, but she was finally returned to her mother, where the violence continued. She was also subjected to a great deal of physical abuse from various members of her family, including being whipped by her grandmother for having blood on her frock after being whipped for playing with water. She eventually moved back in with her father and credits him with helping her grow into the woman she is today. Britney Spears. Everyone knows Britney Spears has had a difficult time in her life. Britney Spears came perilously close to losing a generational icon, but she has proven that there is no such thing as an insurmountable abyss. She received the assistance she required and is now back in her rightful place as Queen of Pop. While most of us recall the drama of 2007, not everyone is aware of her early years, which were possibly much more difficult. Britney's family was reportedly so impoverished as a child that her abusive, alcoholic father would go out hunting for rabbit or squirrel to feed the family. While Britney denies this, the fact remains that they were poor. Rather of having a job, Lynn Spears believed that the greatest way to get money fast was through her daughter's singing. Britney's luck ran out, and she became the sole breadwinner for a family of 5. She was drinking at the age of 13. She was having sex at 14 and was permitted to have boys over for the night. Her mother also arranged for her to date an 18-year-old for publicity purposes. She began using drugs when she was 15 years old. Then her career took off, she suffered a nervous breakdown, and she was placed under conservatorship. Despite the fact that her father was an aggressive alcoholic who once held a reporter at knife point for 4 hours, he was deemed a better guardian for Britney than Lynn, who appears to have minimal contact with her these days. Many of us would not want to be in Britney's shoes, despite her celebrity, wealth, and success. But, despite her onerous circumstances, she has a happy ending. The legend of the star who stared death in the face only to smack him in the face with an umbrella will live on for decades. Subscribe to the channel and like it. There are still many interesting stories ahead.